85% of the world population is low vibrational. Now the question is how do we know this? Well, we know this from using kinesiology muscle testing. So this here is the scale of consciousness, and this was calibrated by Dr. David Hawkins using kinesiology muscle testing, and he talks all about this in his book Power versus Force. So what kinesiology muscle testing is where you can use the body like a lie detector test to find out if something is truthful or if something is false. And it's to do with the subconscious mind. So the subconscious mind stores a lot of information, more than what we realize. And it's to do with the muscles in your shoulder. So the way you test is you have the test subject. So let's say I'm the test subject. And the test subject puts their arm out. And then you have the person doing the testing. So they stand opposite you. So hopefully you can see my arm. It's not out of shot. And so the person, like, let's pretend there's someone standing opposite me testing me. They put their two fingers on your wrist and they will ask a question, and then me, being the person that's being tested, will answer the question. And as they push down on my arm, I resist and push back. If the muscles in my shoulder lock, it's a truthful answer. If the muscles don't lock, the arm drops down. So for example, let's pretend someone's testing me and they say to me, "Is your name Laura?" And I say yes. They push down, the shoulder muscles will lock because it's a truthful answer. So let's say they ask me, "Is your name Amanda?" And I say yes. And they push down, my arm will drop. The muscles won't lock because it's not a truthful answer. And so how crazy is that, right? Like, we can use kinesiology muscle testing to find out anything. And I didn't even know about this until I read Dr. David Hawkins' book. So I'm like, why are we not talking about this more? Because you can use kinesiology muscle testing to find health problems in the body. For example, someone could come to you with a business deal and you may be like, is this a good business deal or am I going to get screwed over? You could use kinesiology muscle testing to find out if it's a good business deal or not, right? So he used kinesiology muscle testing to calibrate this scale. And he used a whole bunch of different people. I don't know how many test subjects, but they did like millions of calibrations using all sorts of test subjects from different ages, different ethnicities, different religions, like a whole mix of people to calibrate this scale. So it was done very thoroughly. So for example, let's pretend that we're using kinesiology to calibrate this scale. So it would be like, oh, does shame vibrate at 30? And the arm would drop down because it doesn't. Guilt vibrates at 30. So then it would be like, okay, does shame vibrate at 20? Boom, shoulder locks because shame vibrates at 20. And so basically that's how he figured out where these different states of consciousness, what frequency they vibrate at. So that's also how he figured out that 85% of the world population is calibrating in the negative frequencies. Is vibrating in the negative frequencies. So from shame to pride is all the negative low vibe frequencies. And this is also when everyone's operating from the ego mind, because it's the ego that keeps us in these negative frequencies. So that's crazy, right? That's a big number of the world population that's vibrating low, that's vibrating down here. And because consciousness creates reality, that's why we're living in such a negative world with all this anger, hate, violence, crime, and all that stuff, you know? So obviously we want to work on raising our vibration so that we can live in a much more positive world. Less anger, less hate, less violence, less crime. Now 15% calibrate up here in the higher frequencies, which is a really good thing, because if we did not have 15% calibrating up here, well, we would self-destruct basically, because the 15% that are in the high vibrational frequencies counterbalances the negativity from the 85% down here. So for example, one person that is vibrating at 700, which is enlightenment, will counterbalance 70 million people that are vibrating down here in the lower frequencies. One person at 600, which is peace, will counterbalance 10 million people down here. One person at 500 counterbalances 750,000 people down here. So luckily we have some high vibe people that are operating in these higher frequencies to help counterbalance that negativity. It also means, because 85% of people are vibrating down here, that unfortunately most people do not operate with unconditional love, because unconditional love is up here. And this is something I noticed growing up as a kid, that the love around me was very conditional. It was like you had to be a certain way to get the love and the validation or whatever from your parents. And if you weren't a certain way, like my parents would be critical towards me. Now, even though we individually vibrate down here in the negative frequencies, as a collective, we now vibrate above 200, which is courage. Courage is in blue because courage is the critical point where we go from force, so all these negative low frequencies in red is when you're operating in force. So this is from Dr. David Hawkins' book, Power versus Force. You first step out of force and into power, right? So back in the 1980s, as a collective, we were vibrating at 190. So we were vibrating below that critical point in the low frequencies. But in the 80s, somehow we jumped up to 204 as a collective. So they don't know why, but for some reason, as a collective, we've raised vibration. And I think that's a very positive sign because, you know, there's the Great Awakening happening at the moment with a mass awakening that's underway. And as more and more people awaken to this information, as a collective, we're going to continue to rise, and individually, we're going to continue to rise. So the idea is, we want to be working on our individual vibration, because as we work on our individual vibration, work on raising it, that's how we help raise the collective. Now, I have a little analogy here that I wanted to, I love analogies, so I wanted to share this to give you kind of like a little visual, right? So this is a stick figure person, and this is water. So let's just ignore the fact that you can't breathe underwater. Like, let's just take that out of the equation. Now, you see this little stick figure here. This person represents the 85% of the population that's in these negative frequencies. And he has a little ball and chain attached to his ankle. And there's a couple little fishies I put in there. And so let's say that this person wants to swim up to the surface. And they may put in some effort to swim up there with this ball and chain attached to them. So the effort might be like using meditation or breath work or different practices like that to raise your vibration. You're putting some effort in to use practices to lift your vibe, right? And so just like this person trying to swim up, they may put in some effort, they may get up so far. So let's pretend they get up so far. And like, yeah. Let's pretend the ball and chain's still here. You're like, yeah. But then they find that that weight is quite heavy and it just pulls them back down into these lower frequencies or back to the bottom of the ocean. You might try again and put that effort in again to get your vibration up. And you might be feeling good, like, yeah. And then you find you're falling back down into the lower frequencies. And it's like you're up and down, up and down. You may find that you're struggling to maintain the higher frequencies and you can't keep yourself up. Until you have the realization that you need to let go of the ball and chain. You realize this is the problem because it keeps pulling me back down. I need to let go of this ball and chain. So you let it go. Boom. And now that you've let the ball and chain go, you find it much easier to swim up to the surface. You don't have that weight pulling you back down. Now that ball and chain represents your suppressed emotions. So Dr. David Hawkins talks all about repressed and suppressed emotions in his book, Letting Go. And that is what's pulling our vibration down into lower frequencies, because our vibration is naturally high. So instead of using practices to get yourself up, like meditation or breath work, which are great practices, by the way, I'm not saying don't do that. I'm just saying don't just rely on that, because your weight of suppressed emotions in the body is going to keep bringing you back down until you let it go. That's what raising vibration is really about, is letting go, because your vibration is naturally high. So when you let go of those suppressed emotions that keep you down here, your vibration will naturally start raising back up. So how do we let go of suppressed emotions? By using Dr. David Hawkins' letting go technique. And it's such a simple technique. It's just we don't have the awareness. We're not taught how to deal with our emotions. So what we do to deal with our negative emotions is we suppress them. We may even express them. So you may be angry and want to vent. You may feel the need to cry. But Dr. David Hawkins explains that when you express an emotion, you're still suppressing some of that in the body. And the last way that we deal with emotions is escapism. So we try to escape through things like alcohol or drugs or food or TV, whatever it may be. We're all using different things in the external environment to distract ourselves from these negative, uncomfortable emotions. And because we do that, we keep them suppressed in the body, and as long as they're in the body, it's going to keep us down here. So what the letting go technique is when you have a negative emotion come up, accept the negative emotion without judgment and allow it to be there. Because we don't allow the negative emotion to be there, we resist it, and what you resist persists. So as long as you keep resisting negative emotions, they're going to keep coming back up, bubbling back up to the surface. It's going to keep the negative emotion there. So accept the negative emotion without judgment. Just allow it to be there and sit with it. So put all your distractions away, including your phone. Have no distractions and just sit with this emotion and feel into it and observe it, because you are not your thoughts or emotions. You're the conscious being that can take the step back and observe your thoughts and emotions. So you don't want to be in your head thinking about it. You want to get in the body, tune into the body. I kind of like to close my eyes and just sort of, like I'm meditating, and just tune into my body. Allow the emotion to be there, feel into it, and just start observing the emotion. And not just observing the emotions, but observing the physical sensation in the body. By doing this, by allowing the emotion to be there and you're just observing it, you're letting the emotion run its course. And what happens is the emotion clears itself out. It releases from your body. And you know you've successfully surrendered an emotion when you're left feeling lighter and more uplifted. So as you just allow it to be there and you're sitting with it and you're just observing it, you're letting it run its course, it clears itself out, you feel lighter, uplifted, like the emotion's gone, it's cleared out. And that's how you want to deal with your negative emotions. Now, because we have so much suppressed in our body, there's a lot of negative suppressed emotions to let go of. And I saw an analogy for this that I really liked, and it's a tissue box, right? And it's just like you have a tissue box, you're pulling tissues out one by one by one. It's the same idea, pulling these emotions out one by one by surrendering them using this letting go technique. As you do that, like over time, what will happen is you'll just naturally start raising to a higher frequency. And as this starts happening, your life will get a lot easier. Success will be a lot easier. Finding love will be a lot easier. These suppressed emotions cause so many problems for us, more than what we realize. So this is the way to free yourself emotionally and raise your vibration permanently. So I hope you liked this video and you got some sort of value out of it. And if you did, just smash that like button, bam! or write a comment. And if you like this content, make sure you subscribe, hit the bell notification. I'm going to leave a great follow-up video here, which is my top 5 lessons from Dr. David Hawkins' book, Letting Go, that will explain a bit more about the suppressed emotions and just the main points I learned from that book. So feel free to watch that and have an awesome day. Peace.